And battles are never won alone. They are won together. Because together is stronger. Tied tight, united we stand. In honor of one child's wish. And inspired by the fire in his fight. Join the kingdom.
Hey everyone, my name's Ryland and welcome to the 4th episode of the KingJay Podcast. Now, if you guys like this podcast, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your friends and family so we're able to grow this as big as possible, so we're able to help as many people as possible. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So starting where we left off in the previous episode, we previously left with the baseball moments moving right into the fall, and now once we got into the fall more so was when his health really started to decline. You started to see a lot more fatigue, a lot more, his mobility definitely dropped quite a bit. He needed a lot more assistance in doing everyday activities that he'd normally be able to do on his own. And, moving into his birthday, September 8th, it was definitely a day that you'll never forget. I remember he was, wasn't feeling great that day on his birthday, but, he was trying to push through, and we were out in the party room at the hospital at the Stollery, and a bunch of his friends and family come by, and since it was his 18th, one of his friends, Megan Romaniuk, she brought him a couple beers to have, and once you mix all those meds that he was on and all the treatment together, and you add some alcohol in the mix, it sure doesn't end up too good. So I just remember him, it was like his mind just wasn't able to escape a single thought. He just kept repeating over and over and over again, I love you, Mom, just kept repeating it. And I remember my parents just trying to, in any way that they could, try and break his mind out of that cycle. And they try and get him to steer him in a different way, try and change directions, but just wasn't able to. That's what happens when you mix all those meds that you're on, and once your state of mind starts to diminish because of the cancer, of how far it starts to spread throughout the body, you're bound to end up with situations like that. But it's just one of those moments that's a little tough to see, not being able to, having nothing that you can do about it. You just gotta keep going on with it. So that was one of those birthdays you'll for sure never forget. And it was really for sure after his birthday when his health really started to diminish. Like I said before, I remember just him having to get help to go to the bathroom, him having to start to get help to walk around, wheelchair, everything. But once, moving into the fall was really when Children's Wish Foundation, which is now Make-A-Wish, but, that was really when his wish started to come about, and, they were pushing for it. My dad, he wasn't trying to take anything away from it, but I remember him not believing that they'd be able to get his wish done in time because of where his health was currently at. And, when his wish being these shoes right here, once they came in, I remember him saying, being surprised that there was 2 of them. He only thought that there was going to be 1 of them. So that was pretty great to see. And then, he actually ended up standing and walking for the first time in weeks, being able to walk, once the shoes came in. So I think with that, it just shows how much the power of a wish truly has for someone. Having a kid not being able to walk in a couple weeks, now all of a sudden his wish comes in and his wish comes true, and the shoes come in, tries them on, and he's able to get up and walk for the first time in a few weeks. It's something that just goes to show the power of what a wish truly has. And then along with that, they also came out with the whole clothing line, and which was a complete surprise. No one, especially my brother, he had no idea that was going to be coming. They gave him a few extra items to go with it. So that was something that really just made his day, made his week, made his his month, however you want to say it, just completely, not only for him, but our whole family as a whole, even his friends and family. It just gives everyone something new to talk about, takes your mind off of what's currently going on in your life, gets you away from the unfortunate situation that you happen to be in. And so, giving the kid the power to now walk again, and also just being able to distract you from the fact what your life situation is currently like, it just 100% goes to show how much the power of a wish truly has, and how much change it can bring to someone, even in such a unfortunate time in their lives. So moving forward after that, this was, moving into late October, early November, the cancer, completely really started to attack him, just all the meds and everything, just being unable to, he basically wasn't himself anymore. At times you're not able to control your thoughts or anything like that at times. I remember, him becoming a bit more sensitive at different times, being on all the meds and everything, and all the cancer really affecting him now. And one moment that I've been debating if whether or not I'm going to share or not, but I figured it wouldn't be the same if I didn't. I think it's important for me to share this with you guys, as personal as it is. But my brother, he ended up writing all this personal note. He knew that he'd end up passing away, but at the same time, he also kept fighting. Like, there was a possibility that he could beat it, but he wrote everyone in our family a separate note to each of us individually. So I figured I'd just go ahead, and I thought I'd like to share this with you guys, as maybe this is me sharing this with you guys, maybe it's able to make a difference in someone's life somehow. So with that being said, let's get into it. So he ended up writing, and this is something that's very important to me. It's something that, I read quite often. It motivates me to keep going, and, just keeps me pushing through those hard times in life. So he wrote, "Ryland, I'm sorry I wasn't the big brother or role model that I should have been these past few years. I guess I was getting a little jealous of the awesome kid you turned into, and so I pushed away from you. We were always together, side by side, best buds. And it was just rude and unfair of me to kind of ruin that. However, I still see us as best friends, and I see us forever as best friends. Ryland, I love you so much, and I'm so proud of the man you've become. You're funny, handsome, smart, and you got all the right tools for success. I can't wait to continue to watch you mature and grow and see what the future has in store for you. Love you, Rye. I'll never forget all the memories we had together, all the fun games and silly jokes we made together. I'll always remember and cherish forever. I love you forever, Jaden." So that's obviously, a letter that's extremely important to me, knowing that he's always watching over me. It's something that I don't even have to remind myself of with this. It just keeps me pushing forward, and it's honestly it's almost knocked away all those other fears in life, and it's created just kind of, for me, I'd say now, after reading this a few times over the past couple of years, my biggest fear in life is not being able, or seeing my older brother once again and not having anything new to talk about, just having stuff to talk about from when he was here on earth. And that just having nothing new to talk about, that just kind of, it's something that just scares me to think about. Just me seeing him again and having absolutely nothing new to talk about. I think it just make my life meaningless if I do nothing with the rest of my life. So just whenever I think about that, it just motivates me to want to do greater and bigger and better things, and kind of be as successful as possible in whichever way I go. It just motivates me to do amazing things in life, and whether it takes 5 years or 50 years, doesn't matter how long it takes. I know that with this in my mind, it's going to happen at some point in my life, and it just motivates me to keep going. So, that was one of those moments I remember, it was just me and him in the room when he gave it to me. I read it, and right as I got near the end, he started to tear up a bit. I started to tear up a bit, and, we just sat and talked for a couple minutes, and then my dad came back in, and it just, once again, one of those moments you'll never forget. It's one of those moments that is extremely important to me, and moving forward from there, there was around end of October, early November, and at this point you started to get the feeling that the time was coming soon. So we're at the hospital, I'd say from mid-September till November, basically every day we're at the hospital, spending nights, skipping school some days, and obviously you wouldn't trade that away again. You wouldn't change your decision on that. Of course, you're gonna go and miss hockey, whatever it may be, to be with your brother just a few more minutes, because time's running short. So I remember missing a few practices, and so we get into November 14th, 2017, and I'm at school that day, and I remember being in math class and getting a text that one of our family friends, Rachel McKinley, is going to be picking myself and my younger siblings up, and we're going to be heading to the hospital after. They're going to drive us over because both my parents were already there, and we got a few rides to the hospital from friends and family, so it wasn't anything new. But when I got the text from my parents, I just had almost a feeling that something wasn't right. It was a little different this time, and I remember driving over, and it was almost like Rachel and Sophie, the ones who drove us. It was almost like they knew not to say that they knew, but I remember that they drove us once before, and the atmosphere on the ride was just completely different in a way, something I can't really describe. But I remember getting in, and on the drive down, my dad texted me, and he said, "Make sure to hold your sister's hand on the way up." And as soon as I got that text, I knew that this was going to be my brother's last day. And I remember, get into the hospital, go up, we walk into the unit. Normally when we walk in, you spend all those days and nights at the hospital, you become best friends with all the nurses, all their middle names, what they do for, extracurricular activities. And so normally when you walk in, it's just all talks and smiles and laughs and making jokes right away. But once we walked into the doors into the unit, it was completely quiet. Everyone just kind of, no one really said anything. So once I kind of saw that, it kind of sealed it for me that this was going to be my brother's last day. And I remember walking into the room, and we had a bit of an extended room. It was, we had a little lounge area, and then there was his kind of half bedroom, whatever you want to call it, with the bathroom as well. And walk in, sit on the chair, and we just start playing some music, just kind of sitting talking for a bit. And he was kind of completely, he was asleep for sure, and struggling to breathe a little bit. And I remember my dad telling me to turn off the music, come sit around the bed. And we all sit around the bed, and you're just sitting there, and you can just see it in him that how much he's struggling right now, how tough it is for him just to keep breathing, which is something that thinking back on that, something that we all take for granted, being able the ease of just breathing even. And I just remember seeing him struggle to breathe, and I remember watching him take his last breath. It was, of course, a moment I'll never forget. And I remember everyone kind of starts crying a little bit. And as soon as, I remember my sister saying, so she would have been 9 at the time, 15, 12, 9. My sister was 9 at the time, and I just remember hearing or looking over, and she says, "I just wanted him to come home for one more Christmas." And that's right when it hit me. That's when the tears start flushing for me. And for sure a moment that even when I think back on it, hits me a little. And seeing my 9-year-old sister realize what's going on, of course it's tough to see. And I remember me and my dad talking about it. They say that your memory starts to kick in around 2 or 3 years old. So you think about you're 9, you spend the last 2 years from when you're 7. That's almost basically half of your memory. Say it starts at 3, a little under half of your memory is spent at the hospital. So for her, being around all the time, that's basically what she knows. It's what she knew at the time, being there consistently. So I just remember afterwards thinking how much of a change it'd be for her especially. And, that was without a doubt no doubt in my mind, the hardest moment for me that I'll ever have to go through is leaving that hospital room. It was, I just kept walking out and walking back in, and I kept going back to my brother, kept, giving him a hug, just kind of whispering, some words to him. And, going back to the note that he wrote me, he ended up saying, you're going to do great things. I'll always be watching you. And I just kind of said, I got you, just kind of telling him that I'll keep going for him. I'll keep pushing through. And I remember just keep going back to his bed and just keep saying, I got you. And I'd try and walk out, and I just have to go right back over, kept going again. And I probably went 10, 15, 20 times, 30 times even. I wouldn't be surprised. I just remember keep going back and forth. Just, I remember it just, I knew right away how hard of a moment that'd be for me to, once I left, I'd never be able to, well, for me especially at that time, I didn't know what we'd be doing, with his body or anything like that. So I didn't want to have to let him go or anything, but at the same time, I knew I had to. There's, unfortunately, as much as you want, you wish you could bring your loved ones back, but you can't. So, just continuously heading back and forth, telling him I got him, I got you, telling him I love him and everything. And I bet you I went probably back and forth 15, 20 times without a doubt. And then, we finally, nurses came in, gave us a couple things, and, everyone's crying, and, we finally say our last goodbyes to him, and we head out the door and, head home. And it was just kind of, I remember laying in bed when I got home, and we didn't want to tell anyone right away. We just kind of wanted almost let it settle in for a bit, give it the night, give it the morning, and then slowly start to tell, the closest, and then kind of go from there. And I remember laying in bed, starting to tear up a bit, and just thinking about that moment when I just kept going back and forth to my brother and trying to leave, then just kept going back. And I remember I didn't want to tell anyone, I wanted to kind of go with, I agreed with what my parents said, just hold on, don't tell anyone. But for me, I had to tell someone. And, I ended up telling one of my best buddies, Carter Mack at the time. And, I told him that, my brother passed away. And I remember just putting my phone down, and, the tears just kept coming. And then all of a sudden it just completely stopped. It was like, almost like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was like, just completely stopped the tears. And then at the same time, it was like, almost like a voice hit me that, as much as this sucks, I can't do anything about it now. I just gotta use those moments to keep pushing through, to motivate me in life. And as much as I wish that I could bring him back, I know I can. I just gotta move forward and use this as motivation in life. And it was just almost it was such a weird moment for me, just because I didn't try to stop crying or anything like that. It just kind of, it was like someone else did. I don't even know how to describe it. It was such a weird moment. But I just remember sitting there and just completely stopping, and then it just hit me that, I got to use this in the right way in life. Don't let it drag me down. For me personally, like I said in the previous episode, crying doesn't do me any good. For other people, I know it helps them. It's natural. It's a part of life. But for me, crying about it does me no good. It just, for me, it feels like it slows me down. So moving, the next couple days, you start to tell a few people, and it starts to come out, and everyone starts to hear about it. And I remember taking So he passed away on a Tuesday, and then I take the rest of the week off at school just to kind of let it settle in a bit. And I remember that weekend on the Saturday we had a hockey game, and I remember showing up again and the team just being super supportive, everyone, friends and family being super supportive about it all. And, my coach saying if you still need more time, just, it's okay, you can miss the game, it's all good. And, I just feel like I had to play that game. And I remember I was probably the hardest I've ever been on myself when it comes to sports. I'm normally pretty hard on myself, but I remember that game I was extremely hard on myself. I think I was putting too much pressure on myself to try and create a special moment. I think you see those on TSN and Sportsnet sometimes. Someone will lose a family member or something and they go and put up a hat trick or something. And so I think I was putting a little bit too much pressure on myself, and instead of just trying, to go out and play. But at the same time, I was still trying to adapt to the new mindset that I, was trying to figure out how to go about this. And so, just complete change, but, just putting too much pressure on myself. So I think I was trying to go into the whole situation a little too fast. I should have, looking back on it now, of course, you don't want to have any regrets in life, and I personally don't, but looking back on it, I think I would have taken it a little bit slower at first. I would have, like I said, I took those first few days off of school and missed a couple practices for hockey, but going into, I feel like once I missed those, I just wanted to jump right back in. And it's just to take that slow transition, however which way that is for you, whether you slowly eased into it or you just kind of return to what your normal life previously was, but just in a slower way, not just jumping right back in 100 miles per hour. Whatever works for you. I think that's the most important way to go about it. Let it sink in, let it settle in. I think it's important to realize how your life has now changed. It's extremely important to understand. I think it can be almost dangerous in a way to try and jump back in without realizing or even letting it just settle in 100%, not even 100%, just partially. I think it's very important for your mind to realize, your new life, the extremely unfortunate, sad, whatever words you want to put for it. I think it's just important that, you just take the process slow, find out what works for you, find out what your way about it is to go. And, everyone, like I said before, everyone works differently, everyone's mind's different. So just extremely important to take it slow, figure out what works best for you. So with that being said, that's going to wrap up this episode. And thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you tune in next week. Thank you. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode on the KingJay Podcast. Whether you're listening on your favorite podcast app or watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share with all your friends and family, as our goal is to grow this as big as possible so we're able to reach this podcast to as many people as possible who are potentially looking for some guidance through a tough time in their lives, and be able to help fund future wishes for other kids in need, and just be able to make as big of an impact as possible. Thank you.
Join the kingdom.